Okay, I'd like to call the City of Elkhorn Common Council March 6, 5:30 meeting to order. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please.
Bruce Lechner,
Here.
Tim Sharota,
Here.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Here.
Ron Dunwoody,
Here.
Scott McClory,
Here.
Ken Meinel,
Here.
Carol Young.
Next, moving on to public comment. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes each. The public may speak on any item of the city concern, whether or not the topic is included on this agenda. However, if the topic does not pertain to an item listed on a council agenda, the council is not permitted to address or discuss the matter during this meeting. Under open meeting laws, the council must notice an item on the agenda to allow discussion on that matter. If the council is not permitted to discuss your concerns, your comments will be considered and may be placed on a future agenda for further discussion. Anybody here for public comment? If you want to come up to the podium and state your name and address.
I'm
Yep.
usually loud enough, everybody knows that.
Well,
Hello.
we have
my
the vote, we have the thing for the recording for the, that's why we got to use them.
Not a problem. Hello, my name is Lori Domino. I wanted to introduce myself to everybody here who does not know who I am, that I am running for the City of Elkhorn's municipal judge. I have been wanting to do this before I retired in 2020. I reached out to Lacey to find out when the term ended so I can run for 2023. I have been a longtime resident of the City of Elkhorn. I am a retired law enforcement officer from the town of Bloomfield. I'm currently back in the town of Bloomfield as the town clerk, which happens to be a part-time job. I'm also a 14-year veteran from the U.S. Army Reserves. And I'm going to tell you one thing, I love the City of Elkhorn. This is why I lived here. I want to continue servicing the community in somewhat of a way and using my background as in law enforcement and becoming a judge. I would love to make a difference for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else here for public comment? Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Would council like any of these separated out, or is it okay to do all three together? Anybody? Okay, so we have the meeting minutes of Common Council, February 6, 2023. Pay application number 3 from Payne and Dolan for 2022 street and parking improvement project, and pay application number 6 from Shear Construction for Bayman Park Shelter. They were all in your packet. Anybody have a motion?
Excuse me, I'll make the motion to approve all 3 items in the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion on those? Roll call, please.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Carol Young, Tim Sharota,
Yes.
Ken Meinel,
Yes.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Scott McClory.
Yes. Motion passed on the consent agenda. Next, bills payable, consideration and recommendation of pay. The bills are $8,222,016.66. Do I have a motion?
Make that motion to pay the bills.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion on any of the bills in your packet? Roll call, please.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Ken Meinel,
Yes.
Carol Young,
Yes.
Tim Sharota.
Yes.
Motion passed to pay the bills. Report of city officers. We did have a resignation at the Park and Rec Advisory Board, but I would like to make the appointment of Jordan Reynolds to the Park and Recreation Advisory Board, if council would approve that.
I'll make, what, motion?
Yes, we need a motion.
I'll motion to approve that.
Need a motion, and we have a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed for appointment of Jordan Reynolds to the Park and Recreation Advisory Board. City Administrator, Adam?
Yeah, just a few updates here. One, we're continuing to work with Tronomy on the proposed Creekside development. So I do want to thank Kapoor. They helped us get the updated maps together that Ellers was asking in order to amend the project plan and potentially change the boundaries of the TID district. So thanks to Kapoor for that. And then, just continue to work with them on that project. Speaking of the Joint Review Board and the project plan, we've got a meeting tomorrow to interview 2 candidates. I should say the the Joint Review Board has a meeting tomorrow to interview 2 potential candidates for the public member position, because unfortunately the public member had to resign. So the JRB may appoint somebody tomorrow after the end of those interviews. In terms of the street projects, we have 2 actual projects that just went out for bid, the South Wright Street and the Centralia project. Both went out on the same day, March 2nd, and they're both, bids are due the same day at the same time. So we'll be having a lot of street work all coming around at the same time. I guess kudos to both Kapoor and Foth for getting their projects out timely this year. So that should be hopefully good, and we'll see how the bids come in for those. The PD's been working on a public safety facility assessment. Chief, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but Chief and his department put together a pretty lengthy survey for city department directors to fill out, and I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, just that we should be getting that out to department heads then shortly to kind of evaluate what they already have and what they may need to kind of make a better informed decision on where we need to go, and then put any costs associated with that after those decisions are made. So we'll be working together as a team first before we come back, I believe.
And I think the chief was, part of the plan is that this would be part of the chief's analysis as to whether the parks need cameras. So they just wanted to expand the analysis.
Right. The cameras at the parks was just one facet of it, but we need to look kind of more globally or overall at the overall needs of the city and different facilities rather than just the parks themselves.
And lastly, we had sort of a last minute grant funding opportunity come up. Katie James, our grant writer, received communication from Senator Baldwin's office last Wednesday, basically letting us know that they have congressionally directed spending available, which is basically just earmarks, and encouraging the city to apply. So we, in the last day or 2, put together some letters of support and filled out some grant applications for both water funding as well as funding for a fire department ladder truck. We submitted both of those, and we'll see what happens. There's no guarantee, but certainly the fact that they encouraged us to apply, we thought was, I guess, a good sign. And a lot of credit goes to Katie, because I know she had to put a lot together in a short amount of time. But there again, thanks to not only the fire chief for giving her the information, but also Foth provided a lot of information, and both the school and my understanding is the county also submitted letters of support kind of at the last minute, or not the last minute, but in a short period of time for us to be able to submit that today. So unfortunately, we got notified on Wednesday, and the deadline was today. So it was short amount of time to put together a lot, but we'll see what happens. So that's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Next, new business. First, we have discussion and possible decision regarding approval of Elkhorn Rec as treasurer of the Quad County Baseball and Softball League. This would take a budget amendment to accommodate this need. Carl, if you'd like to kind of go over that?
Just like going really quickly over the memo, basically our 3rd through 8th grade baseball and softball teams, we have 10 communities that are involved. We had over 80 teams last year. Currently, Palmyra is the treasurer. In terms of, obviously, would project more revenue with the team fees, and expenditures would be less than that. I think Elkhorn's better suited to be the treasurer. I think it'll be easier for our coaches and our community involved for us to take on this responsibility, and we have the staff to do it compared to Palmyra's 1 staff in the recreation department. So basically, this would just give us the flexibility to currently expand on what we already are doing, and just make things more timely for all the communities involved to make the quad a better league entirely. So.
We talked about this in the rec board, and it made sense. Palmyra's got a part-time person trying to do all this for all these areas, and again, as Carl said, we're staffed better to perform this, and believe it's going to be a benefit to not only our area, but everybody else that participates. So I'd be in favor of doing this. So I guess I will make a motion.
You're making the motion
Yes, I am.
to approve?
To approve.
Okay, with the budget adjustment of, you know what it is?
So the budget adjustment is $7,500 in revenue and $77,250 in expenditures.
It's included in your
That's in my motion, yes.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion for Carl or anything? Roll call, please.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody, Tim Sharota,
Yes.
Carol Young,
Yes.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Ken Minell.
Yes.
Motion passed. Next, discussion and possible decision regarding recommendation to approve the use of park funds to purchase fishing pier and kayak launch. It'll be a 50-50 split with the Rotary Club of Elkhorn. Carl, you want to go over any of that, or?
Yeah, sure. So a little bit more information on top of the memo. So basically, this pier, this kayak launch and fishing pier is from Easy Docks, so it's a modular component. So if you wanted to add to it, if you wanted to extend it, you could put additional railings on, anything like that. It's definitely suited for that. So if we wanted to make things bigger eventually, you could add on to this component too. And then again, it's through Easy Docks, and like the mayor said, it'd be a 50 split with Rotary. And then we'd just be using some of their funds that they raised through the 12 Days of Christmas fundraiser to be able to make this happen. And then obviously the 50% coming from the park fund.
So yeah, we talked about this too. Everybody was in favor of it. It's a great idea with all the improvements we've already done on Bay Mag Park. So I'd be making a motion to spend the $5,000 for our contribution for the piers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussions?
I'm assuming that the installation of the pier won't impact the ski club, the ski, the ski events?
Yeah, no, it won't.
I didn't
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
Just wanted to be sure.
Just for council's knowledge, currently park fund has $142,899, so just as an FYI.
Any other questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Carol Young, Scott McClory,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Tim Sharota.
Yes.
Motion passed to do the purchase of fishing pier and kayak launch with the 50-50 split with Rotary Club of Elkhorn. Next, discussion and possible decision regarding proposal from CTW Wells and Pumps to inspect and evaluate well number 6. I know Tim's here if we get any questions. Everybody's seen that in their packet. We kind of talked about this recently about having it taken care of. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion. Understand well 6 is awesome water, so we want to keep that going.
So we have a motion, do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Tim Sharota,
Yes.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Carol Young.
Yes.
Motion passed for the proposal from CTW Wells and Pumps to inspect and evaluate well number 6. Discussion and possible decision regarding proposed resolution 23-04, a resolution repealing and replacing section 3.5, residency of the City of Elkhorn Personal Policies and Procedures Manual. Adam had that in our packet. We kind of talked about that last meeting, and I think it answered some of your questions, Scott, correct?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution 23-04. Any questions or further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed for resolution 23-04. Next, discussion and possible decision regarding proposal to install automated license plate readers near the intersection of I-43 and Highway 67, the north and south sides. Anybody have any questions?
So looking at that, looks like we're going to have continued support from Kunas for paying for this yearly.
That's what Mr. Kunis has expressed, yep, his yearly support for this project.
As long as we're getting support from it, it doesn't go into the taxpayers beyond that minimum, what, $1,400?
Right, and we're hoping to be able to get that from grant funds that we already have.
I'd be in favor of doing this.
So you get your motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other further questions or discussion?
I just want to make a comment. A couple of my constituents reached out to me, and I explained to them, what the benefits were from a law enforcement perspective on the ALPR, and their concern was, well, what's going to happen with this collected data, what's, Big Brother and whatever. And I explained to them, of course, that Joel would not just launch a program without having a good, solid policy in place that had been reviewed and, protect us from any, potential aggravation lawsuit-wise or whatever. So long as, obviously, I've known the chief for 30 years. I know it's not just going to be out there willy-nilly without all of that stuff being vetted and board having reviewed it. So that's to answer some of my constituents that had those issues. So I just want to make sure that we are clear on that for the record, that the policy would be hand in glove with the launching of the ALPR. So thanks to those of you in the audience that reached out to me.
Okay.
I guess we're just excited about the technology, and I think we may very well be the first to bring it to Walworth County. Other counties and other cities and municipalities are already using it in Wisconsin, as well as in other states. And I'm really excited to see what the technology can do, not only for crime recognition, but then also, helping us develop those investigative leads so that maybe we can help Mr. Kunis and others in that area that have had this substantial loss.
I know when I wore my other hat, it was one thing that we looked into at the county, and we got one on loan just for one Alpine Valley concert. And you could just, as the cars would go by, oh, that one's stolen. Oh, that one has a revoked driver. Oh, that's, that one's an Amber Alert or whatever. I mean, it's a really great tool for investigative purposes. And again, I understand the concerns about, the privacy issues and what we're going to do with that documentation. And but it could solve a lot of crimes. It could, rescue someone who had been kidnapped. I mean, it's really a good tool. So I'm glad that you're pursuing it.
Yes, and just so you know, Flock Safety themselves, the provider that we're looking to go with, the data is only stored for 30 days and then it's gone.
And that's what I assumed was 30 days. So.
Any other question or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed for decision regarding proposal to install automated license plate readers. Next, discussion and possible decision regarding terms of negotiated contract termination with the professional builders inspections. Everybody seen that? Do I have a motion?
We have everything lined up.
Well, I was just going to say, this is where we're going to turn to Ward. Ward's been working hard with counsel for PBI, and I guess he can give us the update as to what their latest proposed terms would be for that termination.
Well, I explained to them, I've had back and forth conversations, and of course I tried to, is it coming through, Lacey? Or are you
Yep.
able? Okay. So I've had discussions with Chad Pollard, which is their attorney, and we're down to short strokes on this. But we definitely want to do this act no matter what the outcome of those negotiations are, because you need to move on with your other one that you're moving forward with. So let's just say at this point it's $1,000 issue, and I hope it to be a $0 issue by the time I'm done with my phone calls tomorrow.
I guess it'd be helpful for Ward and to know what the council's position is. I mean, basically the situation is PBI wants to get paid out $1,000 to terminate the contract. Right now, we haven't paid them for services in January or February. And so, because obviously we're wanting to find out what would happen. So they're asking for $1,000 to walk away. And if the council's agreeable with that, then obviously that'd be, we'll proceed accordingly. If you want us to say 0, then that's fine, but we just could use some guidance for
Well,
Ward.
They came to us and wanted to be fired, and they weren't doing their jobs. So I have a hard time paying somebody that didn't want to do his job, putting it bluntly. So.
I'm a little restricted in what I can say, because one of the terms of the negotiation for this walkaway is that we're not going to say anything either way about our thoughts on them. So I can't restrict council members on that, of course, but from my perspective, I have to restrict myself. But I would agree that it's a negotiation that should be resolved at a 0 sum.
I'm comfortable allowing, I'm comfortable to answer your question, Adam. I'm comfortable just to continue to let our chief negotiator work on behalf of the city and report back. if he says, I think we should dole out some dollars, then I want to hear that out of his mouth when he's done after, the next couple of days of negotiating.
Let's do that.
Get him?
I guess my question then is the council want to proceed with terminating the contract? Because obviously there's two other, or there'd be two new contracts on the agenda for tonight that would then take effect if you actually vote to terminate the contract with PBI.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second to terminate the contract.
Just as far as discussion, I did, at Adam's direction, gave them a notice of our intent to terminate some time ago so we could start that clock running. But both sides in the negotiation are waiving all the time periods. So just so you know that that's out there.
So in the motion and a second, you're fine if they ended up having to pay $1,000 to the city, or,
Oh, it's not what I said.
well, he made a motion.
He
That's what-
made a motion to terminate the contract, not pay him.
Well, that's,
That means that a negotiation has to continue, but one way or the other, we're deciding to end this contract.
so one way or another. So if it does cost us $1,000, it costs us $1,000?
I would not agree to pay them $1,000 until I
Okay.
came back and got council permission.
I just want to make sure it's clear,
As mud.
right, Lacey? So we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Tim Sharota,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Gary Payson Jr., Carol Young,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Scott McClory.
Yes.
Motion passed to terminate the contract with Professional Building Inspections. Next, we have discussion and possible decision regarding contract with Municipal Zoning and Inspection Services for building inspection services.
So we've been working with MZIS, Greg Knoll of MZIS, who currently serves as the building inspector for Whitewater and the city of Jefferson. He's been with Whitewater for 18 years, and we've had some preliminary meetings. Both Matt, Sherry, Allison, and I met with Greg last Friday just to, in anticipation that if council did decide to move forward, we could get that transition process going. So I know Greg's been at least really communicative so far, which has been helpful in trying to deal with the transition. He's been in contact with the state, letting the state know. And there's going to be some, I say loose ends that have to be tied up with respect to our commercial electrical inspections in terms of the delegation of authority. So that's not really related to Greg. That's just a side issue. But so I at this point, Greg is ready to move forward if the council is ready to move forward. So.
Council?
This contract would just be until we get an RFP sent out and go through the formal practice of getting the right person long-term, if that's what we decide to do.
That is correct, yes. Okay.
So in essence, this person is being potentially employed as a temp. Just a bridge piece until we can make a more formal declaration about who's going to do it.
That is correct.
Okay.
The contract is written, is open-ended. I mean, it does say in there that it's intended to be a limited term duration contract to serve as a bridge, but obviously, you can't really predict the future, so I don't know, obviously what council's going to want to do in the future, but more than likely, we at a minimum, even if the council were in the future to want to continue using Greg, we would want to sign a new contract with them in part to deal with the compensation side of it, because right now on this contract, it'd be paid basically per inspection rather than a portion of building permit fees. And that's in part because as part of this transition, we've already issued building permits, so it kind of creates a weird situation where, and we didn't know how things were going to pan out with negotiations with PBI, so the simplest thing to do is to pay per inspections, and furthermore, we're going to have to look at our actual building permit fees because they haven't been updated since 09 or 2010, so I know it's something that, Greg would like to have us look at, which is something we already were aware of, so.
And the background with this particular company being the temporary bridge piece is what? Versus, there's 2 or 3 or 4 other people that would also probably want to do it.
Yeah, so this firm was recommended by, well, I should say, came recommended. I spoke to both the city of Jefferson and the city of Whitewater, their planning and city administrator, and they had complimentary things to say about them. I can sort of Carl, our rec advisory, or should say our rec director, also has worked with Greg at Jefferson when he was there and had complimentary things to say. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Carl, but
Obviously, I was in the recreation department, but I saw a lot of people come in, and overall, everyone really liked Greg. The community really liked working with him. He was very communicative and gave them everything they needed. So I never really heard a bad word about him. He's a good guy.
And like I said, I just know there's at least a couple people that are also interested in this position long-term. And I just want to make sure that that door is not shut. This is just a bridge piece. And I have no problem with the fact that you guys went ahead and made a staff decision. You vetted this gentleman's company and you're good with him as a temporary guy. He may be the permanent guy, but I just want to make sure it's clear, at least for the media present, that we have not made a formal decision on who's going to take this on permanently going forward.
And yeah, and I should also add that we received two recommendations. Basically, one was this firm, and then one was, Foth had recommended another firm that they had experience with, and that firm did not ultimately wasn't able to actually provide the staff to put forth a proposal for this stage. So that's kind of how we landed on this one. And
Okay.
yeah.
I'm satisfied. Thank you.
No, I agree with you, Scott. I want to put out there down the road so everybody has an opportunity to bid for it.
Right, and that was the purpose of saying, make sure we are going to do an RFP and do it properly.
Any other questions or discussion? If not, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve municipal zoning and inspection services as outlined.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Carol Young,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Tim Sharota.
Yes.
Motion passed for regarding contract with municipal zoning and inspection services for building inspection services. Next, we have discussion and possible decision regarding contract with municipal code enforcement for the zoning administration and code enforcement services.
I guess I hate to sort of add extra commentary you probably don't want to listen to, but I just want to take this moment to, for those of you who don't know, Allison Schwark, who I guess owns MCE, is actually here tonight in the audience. She's currently serving as our zoning administrator through the contract we had with PBI. So Allison stepped in when Bonnie left, and she's been doing a great job so far. Been working really hard, putting in a lot of hours, so we're excited that she is interested in continuing with the city because obviously zoning is important. And so the proposed contract you have on the agenda for tonight would be not only for zoning administration, but then it would also still entail the code enforcement side, which we currently have a contract with MCE to do code enforcement, although I guess it did technically expire, but at the end of 2022. So we'll have a one point person right now who do both zoning and code enforcement, and the proposed contract would increase the number of office hours each week from currently we only have, under our prior contract with PBI, there were only 6 office hours per week, and that was actually the total number of hours the employee, theoretically the employee was going to work each week, which obviously was tough because we have a lot of zoning stuff going on. Under the proposed contract, there'd be 12 hours per week for just for office hours. There'd be both morning times and afternoon times available, which Matt is put on the screen for you. So you'd have both morning and afternoon hours available to make it hopefully more convenient for the public who either wants to come in the afternoon, maybe towards the end of the day, or wants to come over their lunchtime. And then on top of that, Allison would be working up to 30 hours per week total. And obviously that's going to be depending on what work is available. So right now, Allison's been billing her extra time the last month or two, and that's how we kind of came up with the 30 hours because she's averaging about 20 hours per week right now when you factor in office hours, extra hours, and then her code enforcement hours. So this would give us a little extra capacity. And like I said, I'm certainly looking forward to it. The last thing I'd add is the council had budgeted this year to hire a full-time in-house zoning administrator. So was that data in the council packet that Alderman Schroeder, you had asked for about showing the cost analysis of doing full-time zoning, full-time building inspector, full-time zoning, part-time building inspector, and so on, so forth. I don't know if you have any questions about that, but,
Yeah, you had good information in there. The one thing I was, were your cost figures in there, like I think it was 2 full-time positions, was it, I believe you said it was a net like $94,000. Does that mean after the fees we bring in? By net, your,
yeah,
after revenue comes in, that's the cost?
correct, yeah. So it was hard, and it was the net, and you'll see we had, you'll see under there it said personal expenses, total personal expenses, and below that, so less revenues. And to be honest, trying to project revenues at this point is really a shot in the dark, because obviously if we have more zoning hours, hopefully, permit applications are getting processed more quickly. If we redo our building permit fees, that could very well change the fees that are coming in. I mean, it's really a lot of unknowns, but at least gives you something to look at in terms of cost, so.
Is the contract we're discussing now, does that lock us in for 2023
24,
and 24?
I think, right?
Yeah, it would go through the end of '24, so.
I guess I don't have a problem with it at all, although if we lock it in and then decide to go with full-time employees, then we've got an issue. But
I guess, I know it had been, I guess I'd say our intent when we put it in the budget to try and hire somebody in-house. The challenge is you have to find somebody who's qualified to do the job to start with and who you think would do a good job. So if we had somebody who we are optimistic is going to do a good job, and we can get 30 hours a week, and would save us a little bit of money by doing that. It's, it might be a good bridge, and then we can evaluate, thinking being, we can evaluate in a year and a half as to whether it's working or not. And, I don't know if problems arise before then, I guess we would have to negotiate with MCE if we need to do something different, but.
I guess I'm pleased with what Allison's been doing. It's the first time we've had code enforcement in forever, and you can see the results, so that's a good deal.
Yeah, I've had just a short opportunity to work with Allison from the planning commission standpoint and code enforcement. And she jumped right in. When Bonnie left, there was no hesitation there. And like Adam said, she was putting in hours that everybody else would have just said, you pay me to do this and I'm done. She didn't do that. She jumped right in, and she's really got some great results. Like Tim had said, forever, from planning commission standpoint, we look for code enforcement. And we get a monthly report, I think we all do, of what she's gone out and looked at and what stage it's at. We've never had that, so I think she's doing a great job.
To answer Alderman Shirota's concern, just take a look at numbered paragraph 10 of the contract.
Any other questions or discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the contract with MCE.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Tim Shirota,
Yes.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Carol Young.
Yes.
Motion passed to approve the contract with municipal code enforcement for the zoning administration and code enforcement services. Next, we will adjourn into closed session, and we will reconvene in open session for possible action on closed session items. Do I have a motion to adjourn into closed session?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We will go into closed session. In the open session, we have, first one is discussion of possible decision regarding offer to purchase a parcel of city property, tax key parcel YA4784000002.
I'd like to make a motion as soon as my scribe reads it for me.
Okay, Ward, I'll need some help. A motion to reject the offer and allow council to negotiate.
A counteroffer.
A counteroffer.
Within a range.
There you go.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Tim Shirota,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Carol Young, Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody.
Yes.
Motion passed. Next, we have discussion of possible decision regarding proposed services agreement with law firm for legal counsel on matters regarding labor and employment.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed service agreement with law firm for legal counsel on matters regarding labor and employment.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Tim Sharota,
Yes.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Carol Young.
Yes.
Motion passed. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
I thought